Hi, my name is Dayanara Angamarca. Today I will uh, a little a little of the Harry Potter book. In chapter 1, The Boy Who Lived. Mr. and Miss Dursley of number 4 Private Drive were proud to say that they were perfectly normal. Thank you very much. They were the last people you'd expect to be involved in anything stir or mysterious, because they just didn't hold with such nonsense. Mr. Dursley was the director of a firm called Groenings, which made drills. He was a big, beefy man with hardly any need. Although he did have a very large mustache. Miss Dursley was thin and blonde and had nearly twice the usual amount of need, which came in very useful, as she spent so much of her time craning over garden fields, spying on the neighbors. The Dursley had a small son called Dudley, and in their opinion there was no fair boy anywhere. The Dursley had everything they wanted, but they also had a secret, and their great fear was that somebody would discover it. They didn't think they could bear it if anyone found out about the Potters. Miss Potter was Miss Dursley's sister, but they hadn't met for several years. In fact, Miss Dursley pretended she didn't have a sister because her sister and her good-for-nothing husband were as undersleeves as it was possible to be. The Dursleys stood there to think what the neighbors would say if the Potters arrived in the street. The Dursleys knew that the Potters had a small son too, but they had never even seen him. This boy was another good reason for keeping the Potters away. They didn't want Dudley mixing with a child like that. When Mr. and Miss Dursley walked up on the dull gray Tuesday, our story starts. There was nothing about the cloudy sky outside to suggest that strange and mysterious things would soon be happening all over the country. Miss Dursley, who hummed as he picked out his most boring day did for work, and Mr. Dursley's gossip away happily as she wrestled a screaming Dudley into his high chair. None of them noticed a large downy old footer past the window. At 8:30, Miss Dursley picked up his briefcase, petted Miss Dursley on the cheek, and tried to kiss Dudley goodbye, but missed because Dudley was now having a tantrum and throwing his cereal at the walls. Little Tick shortly Miss Dursley as he left the house. He got into his car and backed out of number 4 strip. It was on the corner of the street that he noticed the first sign of something peculiar. A cat read a map. For a second, Miss Dursley didn't realize what he had seen. Then he jerked his head around to look again. There was a tabby cat standing on the corner of Private Drive, but there wasn't a map in sight. What could he have been thinking of? It must have been a trick of the leaf. Miss Dursley blinked and stared at the cat. It started back. As Miss Dursley drove around the corner and up the road, he watched the cat in his mirror. It was now reading the sign that said Private Drive. No, looking at the sign, cats couldn't read maps or signs. Miss Dursley gained himself a little shake and put the cat out of his mind as he drove toward he touched of nothing except a lot of drills he was hoping to get that day. But on the 8th of two drills were driven out of his mind by something else as he sat in the usual morning traffic jam. He could not help noticing that there seemed to be a lot of strangely dressed people about, people in clothes. Miss Dursley's could not bear people who dress in funny clothes. The get-ups you saw on young people. He supposed this was some stupid new fashion. He drummed his fingers on the steering wheel and his eyes fell on a huddle of these weirdos standing kids close by. They were whispering excitedly together. Miss Dursley was enraged to see that a Coldplay of them wearing young at all. Why? That man had to be older than he was and wearing an emerald green cloth. Then never of him, but then it struck Miss Dursley that this was probably so silly stood. These people were absolutely collecting for something. Yes, that will be it. The traffic moved on a few minutes later. Miss Dursley arrived in the grown-ups parking lot. His mean back on drills. Miss Dursley always sat with his back to the window in his office on the 9th floor. If he had not, he might have found it harder to concentrate on drills that morning. He didn't see the owls swooping past in broad daylight. So people down in the strip deep, they pointed and sighed and gasped open mouths as after all, sped over it. Most of them had never seen an owl even at 19. Miss Dursley, however, had a perfectly normal, whole-free morning. He yelled at 5 in different people. He made several important telephone calls and showed a big mood. And he was in a very good mood until lunchtime, when he touched he'd stretch his legs and walk across the road to buy himself a bun from the bakery. He'd forgotten all about the people in class until he passed a group of 10 new to the bakers. He ate them angrily as he passed. He didn't know why, but they made him uneasy. These birds were whispering excitedly too, and he couldn't see a child collecting them. It was on his way back past them, clutching a large donut in a bag, that he caught a few words of what they were saying. The butters, that's right. That's what I heard. Yes, there's some Harry. Miss Dursley stopped dead, fear flooding him. He looked at what he whispered as he wanted to say something to them, but thought better of it. He dashed back across the road, right up to his office, snapped at his secretary not to disturb him, seized his telephone, and had almost finished dialing in his home number when he watched his mint. He put the reserve bat down and stroked his mustache, thinking, no, he was being stupid. Peter wasn't such an unusual name. He was so there were lots of people called Potter who had a son called Harry. Come to think of it, he wasn't even sure his nephew was called Harry. He'd never even seen the boy. It might have been Harvey or Aaron. There was no point in worrying Mr. Dursley. She always got so upset at any mention of her sister. He didn't blame her if he'd had a sister like that, but all the some Jews people in class. He found it a lot harder to concentrate on drills that afternoon, and when he left the building at 5 o'clock, he was still so worried that he walked straight into someone just outside the door. Sorry, he grunted as the teeny old man stumbled and almost fell. It was a few seconds before Mr. Dursley realized that the man was wearing a violet cloth. He didn't seem at all, upset at being almost knocked to the ground. On the contrary, his face spilled into a white smile, and he said in a scared voice that made passerby stare, "Don't be sorry, my dear sir, for nothing could upset me today. Rejoice, for you now who has gone at last. Even muggles like yourself should be celebrating this happy day." And the old man ogled Miss Dursley around the middle and walked of Miss Dursley stood rode to the spot he had been hunged by a complete starger. He also thought he had been called a muggle. Whatever that was, he was rather here right to his car and set off for home, hoping he was imagining things which he had never hoped before because he didn't approve of imagination. As he pulled into the driveway of number 4, the first thing he saw, and it didn't improve his move, was the David cat he'd spot that morning. It was now sitting on his garden wall. He was sure it was the same one. It had the same markings around its eyes. "Joe," said Mr. Dursley slowly. The cat didn't move, it just gave him a stare look. Was this normal cat behavior? Mr. Dursley's wondered, trying to pull himself together. He led himself into the house. He was still determined not to mention anything to his wife. Miss Dursley had a nice normal day. She told him over dinner all about Miss next door's problems with her daughter and how Dudley had learned a new word. Mr. Dursley tried to to act normally when Dudley had been put to bed. He went into the living room in time to catch the last report on the evening news. And finally, bird watchers everywhere have reported that the nation's owls have been behaving very unusually today. Although owls normally hunt at night and are hardly ever seen in daylight, there have been hundreds of shifting of these birds flying in every direction. Sunrise, experts are unable to explain why the owls have suddenly changed their sleeping pattern. The newscaster allowed himself a grin, most mysterious. And now over to Jim, my goofy, with the weather going to be any more showers of owls tonight, Jim? "Well, Dad," said the weatherman, "I don't know about that, but it's not only the owls that have been actioned oddly today. Viewers as for apart as can Yorkshire Dud have been pointing in to tell me that instead of the rain I promised yesterday, they had a downpour of shooting stars. Perhaps people have been celebrating Bonfire Night early. It is not until next week falls, but I can't promise a wet night tonight. Mr. Dursley sat frozen in his armchair, shouting star all over Britain. Owls flying in by daylight, mysterious people in clothes all over the place, and a whisper about the butters. Miss Dursley came into the living room carrying 2 cups of tea. It was no good. He'd have to say something to her. He cleared his throat nervously. Here, Petunia, dear, you haven't heard from your sister lately, have you? As he had expected, Miss Dursley looked shocked and angry. After all, they normally pretend she didn't have a sister. No, she sighed sharply. Why? Funny stuff on the news, Mr. Dursley mumbled. All shooting stars, and there were a lot of funny-looking people in town today. So, Snape, Miss Dursley. Well, I just thought maybe it was something to do with you now here, crown. Miss Dursley shaped her tea through pursed lips. Mr. Dursley wondered whether he dared tell her he heard the name Potter. He decided he didn't dare. Instead, he sighed as casually as he could. There so he'd be about Dudley's known well not he. I suppose so, sighed Miss Dursley stealthily. What is his name again? Howard, he's not it. Harry, nasty common name, if you ask me. Oh, yes, sighed Mr. Dursley, his hair seeking, horrible. Yes, I quite agree. He didn't say another word on the subject as they went upstairs to bed while Miss Dursley was in the bathroom. Mr. Dursley crept to the bedroom window and peered down into the front garden. The cat was still there. It was staring down Bed Drip has thought it were waiting for some time. Was he imagining this? Could all this have anything to do with Potters? If it did, if it got out that they were real to a pair of, well, he didn't think he could bear it. The Dursleys got into bed. Miss Dursley fell asleep quickly, but Mr. Dursley lay awake, turning it all over in his meat, his last comforting thought before he fell asleep was that even if the Potters were involved, there was no reason for them to come near him. Miss Dursley, the Potters knew very well what he had Petunia thought about them and their kid. He could not see how he and Petunia could get mixed up in anything that meant be going on his yawning tourney over it could not affect them. How very wrong he was. Mr. Dursley's mind had been drifting into a one easy sleep, but the cat on the wall outside was showing no sign of sleepiness. It was sitting as still as a statue, its eyes fixed unblinkingly on the far corner of Private Drive. It did not so much as quiver when a car door slammed on the next street, nor when two owls swooping over it. In fact, it was nearly midnight before the cat moved at all. A man appeared on the corner. The cat had been watching a period so suddenly and silently you'd have thought he'd just popped out of a group. The cat's tail twitched and its eyes narrowed. Nothing like this man had ever been seen on Pride Drive. He was tall, thin, and very old, judged by the silver of his hair and beard, which were both long enough to tuck into his belt. He was wearing long robes, a purple cloth that swept the roof and him held buckled, but his blue eyes were live-bright and sparkling behind almond spectacles, and his nose was very long and crooked as through it had been broken at least twice. This man's name was Albus Dumbledore. Albus Dumbledore didn't seem to realize that he had just arrived in a street where everything from his name to his books was unwelcome. He was busy in rummaging in his cloak looking for something, but he did seem to realize he was being watched because he looked up suddenly at the cat, which was still staring at him from the other end of the street. For some reason, the sight of the cat seeming to amuse him. He chuckled and muttered, "I should have known." He found what he was looking for in his inside pocket. It seemed to be a silver cigarette lighter. He flicked it up, held it up in the air, and clicked in it. The nearest street lamp went out with a little puff. He clicked it again. The next lamp flicked into darkness. 12 times he clicked the put order until the only lights left on the wall street were two tiny pink pinpricks in the distance, which were the eyes of the cat watching him. If anyone looked out of their window now, even being 8, Miss Dursley, they would be able to see anything that was happening though on the pavement. Dumbledore is asleep. They put other back inside his cloak and set up down in the street toward number 4, where he sat down on the wall next to the cat. He didn't look at it, but after a moment he spoke to it. Fancy saying, you heard Professor McGonagall? He turned to smile at David, but it had gone. It's that he was smiling at a rather severe-looking woman who was wearing square glasses, exactly the shape of the markings the cat had around its age. She too was wearing a cloak and emerald one. Her black hair was drawn into a thick bun. She looked distinctly ruffled. How did you know it was me? She asked. My dear professor, if never seen a cat sit so still. You'd be still if you'd been sitting on a brick wall all day, said Professor McGonagall. All day. When you could have been celebrating, I must have passed a dozen feasts and parties on my white hair. Professor McGonagall snapped angrily. Oh, yes, if celebrating, all right, she sighed impatiently. You think they'd be a bit more careful, but now even the Muggles have noticed something going on. It was on their news. She jerked her head back at the Dursleys' dark living room window. I heard it flocks of owls shouting start when they're not completely stupid. They were about to nice, sometimes shooting star down in keep. I'll bet that was the Dallas Deagle. He never had much since. You cannot, Bob Blamington sighed Dumbledore Gatling. We had precious little to celebrate for 11 years. I know that, sighed Professor McGonagall, irritable, but that's no reason to lose our heads. People are being downright careless out on the streets in broad daylight, not even dressed in mock clothes, is wiping the rumors. She drew a sharp sidewise glaze at Dumbledore hair, as though hoping he was going to tell her sometime, but he didn't, so she went up. A fine thing it would be if on the very day you know who seems to have disappeared. At last, the Muggles found out about us all. I suppose he really has gone, Dumbledore. It certainly seems so, sighed Dumbledore. We have much to be thankful for while you care for a lemon drop. A what? A lemon drop? Their king of Muggle is wet I'm a writer fond of. No, thank you, sighed Professor McGonagall, gold-eyed, as though she didn't think this was the moment for lemon drops. Has has I say even if you know who has gone? My dearest professor, surely a sensible person like yourself can call him by his name. All this, you know who knows it, knows it. For 11 years I have been trying to persuade people to call him by his proper name, Voldemort. Professor McGonagall flinched, but Dumbledore, who was unsticking to lemon drops, seemed not to notice. It all gets so confusion. If we keep saying, you know who? I have never seen any reason to be frightened of saying Voldemort's name. I know you haven't, said Professor McGonagall, sounding all exasperated, all admiring, but you're different. Everyone knows you're the only on you now. Oh, all right, Voldemort was frightened of your father. Me, sighed Dumbledore calmly. Voldemort had powers I will never had, only because you're too well noble to use them. It is looking, it is dark. Eh, I have pushed so much since Madame Pomfrey told me she lived like my new earplugs. Professor McGonagall shot a sharp look at Dumbledore and said the owls are nothing next to the rumors that flying around, you know what they're saying about why he's disappeared, about what finally stopped him. It seemed that Professor McGonagall had reached the point she was most anxious to discuss the real reason she had been waiting on a cold, hard wall all day. For near as a cat nor as a woman had she finds Dumbledore with such a piercing stare as she did now. It was plain that whatever everyone was saying, she was not going to believe it until Dumbledore told her it was true. Dumbledore, however, was choosing another lemon drop and did not answer what they why they're saying. She perceived on he is that last night Voldemort turned up in Godric's Hollow. He went, he went to find the Potters. The rumors is that Lily and James Potter are that they did. And Dumbledore bowed his head. Professor McGonagall gasped, Lily and James, I can't believe it. I didn't want to believe it. How Albus. Dumbledore reached out and patted her on the shoulder. I know, he sighed. heavily. Professor McGonagall's voice trembled as she went on. That's not all. Their sergeant, he tried to kill the Potter's son, Harry, but could not kill that little boy. No one knows why or how, but their sergeant that when he could not kill Harry Potter, Voldemort's powers somehow broke. That's why he is gone. Dumbledore noted bluntly, "It is, it is true," faltered Professor McGonagall. "After all he's done, all the people he's killed, he could kill a little boy. It's just astounding of all the things to stop him. But how in the name of being heaven did Harry survive? We can only get," sighed Dumbledore. "We may never know." Professor McGonagall pulled out a lace kerchief and dabbled at her face beneath her spectacles. Dumbledore gave a great sneeze as he took a golden watch from his pocket and examined it. It was a very odd watch. It had 12 arms but no numbers. Its the little planets were moving around the earth. It must have made sense to Dumbledore thought, because he put it back in his pocket and sighed. Agreed, agreed Slate. I suppose it was he who told you it be heard by the white. Yes, sighed Professor McGonagall, and I don't suppose you're going to tell me why you're here. Of all place, if come to bring Harry to his aunt and uncle there, and the only family he has left now. You don't mean you can mean the people who live here, cried Professor McGonagall, jumping to her feet and pointing at number 4. Dumbledore, you cannot. I've been watching them all day. You could find 2 people who are less like us, and they got this son. I saw him kitchen his mother all the way up the street screaming, "Forest wets, Harry Potter come and little her." It is the best place for him, sighed Dumbledore firmly. His aunt and uncle will be able to explain everything to him when he is older. I written them a letter. A letter? Reappeared Professor McGonagall, faintly, sitting back down on the wall. "Really, Dumbledore, you think you can explain all this in a letter? These people will never understand him. He'll be famous a legend. I would not be surprised if today was now a Harry Potter day in the future. There will be books written about Harry. Every child in our world will know his name." "Exactly," sighed Dumbledore, looking very seriously over the top of his hormone glaze. "It would be enough to turn anybody's head. Famous before he can walk and talk. Famous for something he won't even remember. Can you see how how much better of he health be growing up away from all that until he is ready to take it. Professor McGonagall opened her mouth, changed her mint, swallowed it, and then said, yes, yes, you're right, of course. But how is the boy getting her Dumbledore? She ate his cloth suddenly, has thought she thought he meant be hiding Harry underneath it agreed, bring it him. You think it was to trust agreed with something as important as this? I will trust agreed with my life. Say Dumbledore, if I'm not saying he's not uh, in the right place, say Professor McGonagall grudgingly, but you can pretend he is not carelessly. He does then do what was that? A loud rumbling sound broke the silence around them. It grew steadily louder as they looked up and down the street for something of a headly. It swelled to a roar as they both looked up at the skill and how motorcycle fell out of the air and landed on the road in front of them. In the motorcycle was her hub. It was nothing to the man sitting astride it. He was almost twice as tall as a normal man and at least 5 times as wide. He looked simple, too big to be allowed, and so will long tangles of bushing black hair and beard hid most of his face. He has the size of trash can lips, and his feet in their leather boots were like baby dolphins. In his vast muscular arms he was holding a bundle of blankets. Hagrid, sighed Dumbledore, sounded relieved. At last, and where did you get that motorcycle? Borrowed it, Professor Dumbledore, sir, sighed the Gil, climbing careful of the motorcycle as he spoke. You serious bag leaning to me, I've got him, sir. No problem. Were there? No, sir. House was almost destroyed, but I got him out all right before the muscle started swarming around. He fell asleep as we was flying over Bristol. Dumbledore and Professor McGonagall bent forward over the bundle of blankets. Inside, just visible, was a baby boy fast asleep under a tooth of jet black hair over his forehead. They could see a curiously shaped cut like a ball of lightning. Is that where? Whispered Professor McGonagall. Yes, said Dumbledore. He'll have that scar forever. Could not you do something about it, Dumbledore? Even if even if I could, I walnut scars can come in handy. I have one Michel about my left nail that is a perfect map of the London underground. Will give him her agreed with better get this over with. Dumbledore took Harry in his arms and turned toward the Dursleys' house. Could I say goodbye to him, sir? Asked Hagrid. He bent his great shaggy head over Harry and gave him what must have been a very scratchy, whiskery kiss. Then suddenly Hagrid let go out like a wound dog. Shh, he said Professor McGonagall. You'll wait the muggles. Sorry, sobbed Harry, taking out a large spot and kerchief and burying his face in it. But I can not stand it. Lily and James did, and poor little Harry of their live with muggles. Yes, it is all very sad, but get a grip on yourself, hungry, or will be found. Professor McGonagall whispered, biting angry gingerly on the arm as Dumbledore stepped over the loop garden wall and walked to the front door. He lay Harry gently on the doorstep, took a letter out of his cloak, took it inside Harry's blankets, and then came back to the other two. For a full minute, the three of them stood and looked at the little bottle. Hagrid's shoulders shook. Professor McGonagall blinked furiously, and the twinkling light that usual shone from Dumbledore's eyes seemed to have gone out. Well, sighed Dumbledore finally, that's that. We business staging her. We may as well go and join the celebration. Yet I agreed in a very moved voice. It'll be the serious his bike back. Jean Knight, Professor McGonagall, Professor Dumbledore, Sir, weeping his streaming eyes on his cake slave, Agri swung himself onto the motorcycle and, and kicked the engine into life with a roar. It rose into the air and off into the night. I shall see you soon. I expect Professor McGonagall sighed Dumbledore, nodding to her. Professor McGonagall, well, but her nose in reply, Dumbledore turned and walked back down the street on the corner by stove and took out the silver put order. He climbed it on side, and 12 balls of lead spent back to their strip lamps so that private dripped globed suddenly orange, and he could make out that David got slinking around the corner at the other end of the street. He could just see the building of blankets on the steep of number 4. Good luck, Harry, he murmured. He turned on his head and with a switch of his cloak, he was gone. A brace reflect in the neat headgates of private drive, which lie silent and tidy under the inky sky. The very last place you would expect astonishing things to happen. Harry Potter rolled over inside his blankets without waking up. One small and closed on the leather beside him and he slept on, not knowing he was special, not knowing he was famous, not knowing he would be woken in a few hours' time by Miss Dursley's scream as she opened the front door to put out the milk bloods. Not that he would spend the new few weeks being prodded and pinched by his cousin Dudley. He could not know that at this very moment, people meeting in secret all over the country were holding up their glass and shying in hushed voice to Harry Potter, the boy who liked. Thanks.